The Matrix Resurrections is possibly the strangest blockbuster movie that has come out in the last decade, and I honestly can't make my mind up on it. On one hand, I think that it is a work of art that needs to be celebrated simply for the boldness of the director, Lana Wachowski. And on the other hand, I think it's the worst movie I've seen in years. And the reason that I can give these conflicting statements is because I have a theory. I think that The Matrix Resurrections was made bad on purpose. And now this is a pretty wild theory. It sounds insane, but I think that this movie is not only terrible, but was designed and directed to be that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down this movie and its plot, and I'm going to review it as if it were made sincerely, which pretty much means that I'm going to shit on it relentlessly because this movie is hilariously bad, but I will give you my honest opinion on it. And then, with all of that context and information, I will present my theory and hopefully convince you on why this movie does all of this on purpose. So let's get started and jump in to The Matrix Resurrections.
After all these years, to be going back to where it all started. Back to the Matrix.
The movie opens with a recreation of the original Matrix movie's opening scene, with Trinity beating up SWAT members and everything, except with different actors and camera angles. And if that doesn't immediately tell you what's wrong here, I have no idea what will. Watching Trinity kick ass is a blue-haired girl and hacker man who talk about a loop in the program recreating these events. The blue-haired girl reveals herself to the agents, and one of them chases after her and takes her into a portal into another room. We see the agent is Dr. Manhattan. No, not that Manhattan, this one. Don't ask why they gave the guy with the shaved head a bald cap. We're getting off topic here. Agent Doc Manhattan is played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and that is his real name, and no, I don't know why they wouldn't ever not use his real name in every movie he's in because it's awesome. Yahya and the girl talk about both seeing Neo and being awoken from the Matrix by just seeing him, and then Agent Manhattan says that his name is Morpheus. Yes, he is actually Morpheus, and they recast Lawrence Fishburne in this movie. I will talk about that later. Also, he's an agent at the beginning, which seems like a big deal, but they never bring this up again. We then cut to Keanu Reeves with a gamer setup in an office he's apparently working at. Apparently, Keanu is a game dev who made a Matrix game that was literally just the plot of the movie trilogy, even winning an award for how good it is. And this is only just scratching the surface for the meta commentary that this movie is about to get into. Keanu's coworker takes him out for coffee. His coworker is played by Andrew Lewis Caldwell, best known for his roles as funny fat guy in Victorious and Hannah Montana.
Hello. Hey. Hello. Hey again. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Thor, the new guy, don't you know?
Okay, well, we'll see you at the 25th reunion.
I don't know why I necessarily showed those clips. I just had to see them, and I felt like I had to show someone else. Keanu's friend gushes about the game and how good it is in a meta moment, obviously referencing fan reactions to the movies. We then see someone who looks like Trinity walk into the coffee shop. Keanu's friend introduces the two of them as they seemingly meet for the first time, though they feel like they've met before. Though Carrie is apparently married and her husband Chad, yes that is his real name, takes her away. Back at work, Keanu goes into a meeting with his boss, Holden from Mindhunter. And I know Jonathan Groff is a really good actor who's been in a bunch of stuff, including Glee, and he was also somehow Kristoff in Frozen, but I will always just refer to him as Holden from Mindhunter. Keanu has visions and flashbacks of the Matrix movies while talking to his boss, who reminds him of Agent Smith. And here's where the movie goes completely insane for me.
I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
What?
They informed me they're going to do it with or without us. And they made it clear they'll kill our contract if we don't cooperate.
And I just want you to sit with that for a bit, because it's about 99% of the evidence for my theory. We then cut to Keanu in therapy with Neil Patrick Harris. Keanu is a suicide survivor and doesn't want to make a Matrix sequel because it feels too realistic for him. He is then literally given a prescription for blue pills and takes one to calm down. Keanu then goes to a board meeting where they pitch Matrix 4 the game, and we see a giant montage of characters talking about what the original movies, I mean games, meant. We're not even 30 minutes in, and we've had 10 minutes of scenes with characters talking about the franchise that they're currently in. An alarm goes off in Keanu's workplace, but he gets a text to go to a door at the end of the hall. Inside is Morpheus, who makes a reference to Morpheus's intro into the original movie.
At last. I wasn't too sure about the callback, but you know, it's just hard to resist. What?
Morpheus offers Keanu the red pill, but Keanu refuses, and SWAT actually starts shooting at the two of them, so Morpheus shoots back. Holden comes out and sees a gun in the ground, so he picks it up and just turns into Agent Smith. But not actually Hugo Weaving, because they recast him too. Holden is Agent Smith in this movie. Just accept that. Agent Holden shoots Keanu, who wakes up in Neil Patrick Harris's office, being told he had a psychotic episode. And there is a small cutaway, but it is very important. Keanu has a flashback to winning his game award, where he had apparently immediately tried to jump off the roof afterwards in another delusional episode. And there is a split-second cut where Keanu is replaced by James McTeague, the actual second unit director of the original Matrix films and producer of this movie. Yes, there is a scene where the actual producer for The Matrix is winning an award for The Matrix and immediately tries to kill himself. Immediately after his therapy session, we see Keanu drinking alone on a rooftop, which is just hilarious to me considering what we just saw. This man's on suicide watch and they just let him do that? Drunk Keanu is about to jump off the roof again, thinking he can fly, when the girl from the opening pulls him back and takes him away. Her name is Bugs, which she explains is named after Bugs Bunny. Hey, this movie is directed by Warner Brothers. Did you remember? Oh, you don't think I forgot, did you? When Agent Smith was in the background of a LeBron James basketball game next to Pennywise from It because art is a lie and life is suffering? So anyway, they go through a portal to a Tokyo train, then to the good guy's hideout in the Matrix. Keanu meets Morpheus again, and they say there's footage of the Matrix game playing on a projector, but it's literally just scenes from the film. Which is odd, because there's not one but two actual real-life Matrix games. Really, I have no idea why they decided to make it a video game in this movie. You already had the existing meta element where Neo could have been the actor who played Neo in the movie. Like, that would have been great, but they just decided to turn them into video games for some reason. Anyway, Morpheus offers Keanu the red pill again, and he takes it. Police then show up and shoot at the gang, who escape to the Tokyo train portal. It's revealed that instead of agents, every NPC in the Matrix is basically a robot that can be turned into a zombie at will, and they all attack the group. Neo and the gang fight the zombie NPCs and get out of the Matrix via a mirror on the train, and Neo wakes up in goo like in the first movie. Though this time, the only pods in the area are Neo's and Trinity's. A bug robot thing then takes Neo's plugs out and takes him away as he reaches out for Trinity. He is then taken to a spaceship and Bugs tells him,
Welcome back to the real world.
haha, get it? We're just doing the first movie again. And speaking of, it is from here on that I completely turned on this movie. I have been harsh on the movie so far. It's got a lot of weird stuff in it that I think is easy to make fun of, but I have enjoyed a lot of it. However, everything from this point onward is a one-to-one remake of the first Matrix movie. For now, I'm just not even going to point out every scene that's a rehash because it's every scene. So now, Neo is plugged into the ship and talks to Morpheus in the White Void. Morpheus says Neo is in withdrawal in the real world, but he knows what'll bring him back, and takes him to the dojo from the first movie. They recreate their fight scene from the first movie, but worse somehow, and Neo ends the fight with a Hadouken because he can do that now, I guess. Neo then wakes up in bed. Bugs explains that the Matrix was re-uploaded and the Oracle died, and Neo was basically inside Matrix 2. Neo then says that nothing has changed and his whole fight in the first trilogy was pointless then, but Bugs says that it did matter and shows him the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar 2. I don't remember if they actually give a name to the ship in this movie, so I'm just gonna call it the Nebuchadnezzar 2. On board, the crew fanboys out over Neo, and we see that some of the crew is machines who change sides. The human members are also almost exclusively played by the cast of Sense8, another Wachowski production. And the whole scene is just kind of funny to me because they talk about how the machines have sentience and free will now, right as one of the machines comes up to a crew member like it's a Pokemon. Morpheus then speaks through the second worst CGI recreation of the actor I've ever seen, which is some sort of nanomachine cloud that the programs can use as a physical body. Neo says that they need to go back and save Trinity, but Bug says they can't because Neo was a one-time thing and the security is too tight. The ship then flies through a holographic rock wall to some place called Io. It's just Zion again. Neo then meets Niobe from the original trilogy, but in old age makeup. Neo and Niobe talk and reminisce about the OG trilogy, and she takes Neo to a botanist who has engineered a real strawberry. What the fuck did I just say? Neo and Niobe talk and reminisce about the original trilogy, and she takes Neo to a botanist who has engineered a real strawberry from the Matrix code. She says that innovations weren't possible without sentient machines teaming up with the humans. Neo asks Niobe to help free Trinity, but she says she can't let the city be in danger since she enjoys the peace, and so has him taken to be imprisoned. Neo goes into prison, and literally in the very next scene, CGI Morpheus comes and breaks him out. The time between him being sent to prison and being broken out is less than a minute, and also they gave him a prison cell with an open balcony. Why does that even exist? Anyway, the gang finds Trinity in the Matrix and asks if they should really break her out because she might be happier inside. Isn't like that the whole fucking point of the Matrix? Neo and the gang get back into the Matrix to go after Trinity, though Neo is worried he won't be able to use his powers anymore. Agent Smith Holden then shows up inside and talks with Neo. He has a gay crush on him and says that he misses the old Matrix and wants to go back. The two are interrupted as the Merovingian shows up for some reason as a homeless man. And Smith says they need to kill Neo to go back to where they were, because in the new Matrix, the Merovingian and Smith are basically useless. So a big dumb fight scene happens, Smith beats up Morpheus, and it looks like the good guys are gonna lose. Also, prepare yourself for the worst callback line in cinema history.
Still no kung fu.
Smith and Neo duke it out one-on-one and have a reminiscing conversation about them being destined to fight each other. Neo is losing the fight, but does a force barrier to stop Smith from killing him, and Hadoukens him because out of all his god powers, that's the only one he remembers. Like, not even a throat jab? The Merovingian then says he'll be back in a spin-off sequel and runs away, and you can't even tell if I'm lying or not. He might have said that, you don't know. Even if you watch the movie, it's impossible to understand a fucking word the guy says. So Neo finally meets up with Trinity, and they talk about their dreams of each other. And I do have to say that despite Keanu Reeves having the acting chops of a block of wood, their chemistry is honestly pretty great. Though, plot twist, Trinity disappears into code and Neil Patrick Harris shows up. Turns out he's a villain called the Analyst, who is basically the Architect 2.0. He explains this as Neil Patrick Harris actually controls time to stop Neo from fighting him.
Bullet time.
I know. Kinda ironic. Using the power that defined you to control you.
What the fuck do I even say here? That is awful. Neil Patrick Harris says that he was there when Neo and Trinity died, and he actually had them rebuilt to be used for a new Matrix, except this one is powered solely by Neo and Trinity's emotions, which officially means that we're working on Monsters Inc. logic that you can convert emotion into power, and somehow this generates way more power than all of humankind being used as batteries, I guess. This also doesn't explain why Agent Smith is here at all, and actually that's never explained, so fuck it. Anyway, the gang breaks Neo out, and they come back to Io. Niobe chews them out for half a second, then forgets she was angry, probably due to old age or something. Niobe then takes Neo to a mysterious woman who is keeping an eye on him in the Matrix. It's revealed to be Sati, the Indian girl from the original trilogy, because of course it is. And they recast her too, but I care a little bit less about that one because the only other role I could find the original actress in was a single episode of The Office. Sati says her father designed the pods where Neo and Trinity were imprisoned, but got purged with the new Matrix, so Sati wants revenge. She says that Trinity can't power the Matrix on her own, and it's going to reset without Neo there, but Neil Patrick Harris is threatening to kill Trinity if Neo doesn't come back. So, the gang volunteer to go on the mission to save Trinity. The plan is to sneak in by having Morpheus's particle bits sneak up Neo's oxygen tube, letting Bugs in to transfer Trinity's consciousness out of the Matrix and onto the Nebuchadnezzar 2. And I just have to point out that it is so stupid that Morpheus is a physical being because he literally jumps over the gap between the two pods and goes like, whoa, like he's about to fall down, even though he's made of flying robots. Anyway, Neo enters the Matrix and talks to Neil Patrick Harris and makes a deal to talk to Trinity to see if she actually wants to leave, since they can't get her out if she doesn't want to go. Neil Patrick Harris says that if she wants to leave, he'll let her go, and Neo agrees that if she doesn't, he'll go back into his pod. Trinity then comes in and talks to Neo. She says she wants to believe, but can't bring herself to leave the Matrix. Neo says he understands she doesn't want to go and lets her go back with her husband and kids. And it's at this point that I would like to point out that the literal plot of the scene is that the gamer Neo is trying to steal Trinity from her husband Chad. Chad, of course, played by Chad Stahelski, the original stunt double for Neo and the director of the John Wick films. Though just before Trinity goes with her family, she beats the shit out of her fake husband and goes to be with Neo instead. Neo starts to fight back against the NPCs and Neil Patrick Harris stops time again, basically saying he lied about his promise. Though Agent Smith shows up and beats up Neil Patrick Harris because he hates the new Matrix and I still don't know why he's here at all. Or better yet, why he can overcome Neil Patrick Harris's time powers? If they do explain it in the movie, please let me know via email at xxmatrixfanxx@aol.com. Anyway, a giant cheap looking fight breaks out and Trinity gets re-uploaded to the gang's computer and starts using her powers in the Matrix. Neo and Trinity then fight through a giant crowd to be with each other, and the Matrix turns hostile. All the bots in the world are now angry and try to swarm Neo, Trinity, and the gang. Neo tries to fly away but can't in a scene straight out of a fucking Marvel movie.
I don't suppose you can still fly?
Yeah, that's not happening.
So instead, Trinity and Neo take a motorbike and drive through a swarm of bots. This is by far the worst part of the movie and looks awful. It feels like it's a high-budget fan film. And like Neo keeps using these Force Blast Hadoukens that I don't even remember him doing in the original trilogy, and it's all he does. Literally the only move he does in the entire movie is this weird Force Blast Hadouken thing. And like this scene is literally shot after shot of a car or a swarm of NPCs or something coming after Neo on the bike, and he force blasts them away, and then another thing comes at him and he force blasts that over and over again. The only cool part of this scene is when the bots apparently turn into suicide bombers and literally start throwing themselves off of buildings to dive bomb the good guys, which I did think it was fun because it's what I wanted to do when watching this part of the movie. After a 30-minute long action scene that goes on forever, Neo and Trinity finally escape to a roof and are surrounded. Neo struggles to stop bullets from a helicopter and redirects a missile because he learned one move in a fighting game and refuses to do any other move. Neo and Trinity share a final kiss on top of the roof. She says her dreams of escaping she's had have always ended here. The two tell each other they'll never let themselves be taken alive and jump off the roof. And the movie ends. I'm obviously joking. No, Trinity begins to fly this time because girls get it done, and the two escape in the Matrix and wake up in the real world. They find each other on the ship and embrace and have a grand old time. Back in the Matrix, Trinity shows up at Neil Patrick Harris's house, kicks his jaw off, slits his throat, and he calls her a bitch. Like, it's the end of the movie, who gives a shit? We've got an R rating and nobody so much has gotten a scratch in this film, so yeah, just throw it all in at the end. They talk to Neil Patrick Harris and he says they might be able to remake The Matrix, but the sheeple like his world better. Yes, the movie franchise that invented the term red pill has now used the word sheeple. The movie then ends just like the first one, only this time Neo and Trinity fly away as Rage Against the Machine plays. Oh wait, no, that's not Rage Against the Machine. That is a Rage Against the Machine cover band called Brass Against, who is most well known for the lead singer pissing on a man live on stage during a concert. Fitting. So I said at the beginning of this video that I was going to review this movie as if it were made sincerely. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to treat this movie as if it was made 100% sincerely to be good by Lana Wachowski. And as a genuine attempt at a Matrix sequel, this movie is awful. You see, I don't know what happened with the Wachowskis, or at least Lana, or Lena, I think I've said it both ways in this video, because they directed one of, if not the greatest action movies with The Matrix. And now I don't want to sound like one of those people that's been claiming online that Lana and Lily Wachowski got lucky by making The Matrix or that they stumbled into its success, because I do think that it is 100% due to them that that movie is as good as it is. It is amazing in every way, and I think the direction is a huge part of it. But I think somewhere along the way, somewhere over time, the Wachowskis just stopped caring. Because aside from their early work, the Wachowski directed movies have all just been terrible to me, and Matrix 4 is no exception. A big part of this film is the interesting meta commentary about the film being made, which I will talk more about in my theory section, but it's just an incredibly ironic situation where it seems like the first half of the movie is apologizing for the second half. The film goes in depth on the reception and the idea that people have of the original Matrix movies, and even makes fun of what a sequel to them shouldn't be, and then just goes ahead and does it anyway. Like, I get that they're being self-aware, but real self-awareness is only appreciated when you can change the formula that you're making fun of, not when you follow it. But this movie is 100% a rehash of the original Matrix film, and it's just awful. Especially with the recast of Morpheus and Agent Smith, two of the biggest characters in the original series. And I looked into it, and apparently Hugo Weaving had scheduling issues with being on Broadway, so he couldn't make it for the filming dates that Wachowski wanted. So apparently Lana just decided to make the movie without him, which is an odd choice. And what's even odder is that apparently Lawrence Fishburne wasn't even asked to be in the movie, which is like, what the fuck? That makes no sense to me. I know hardcore Matrix fans will point out that Morpheus canonically dies in the Matrix Online video game, but in the movie itself, he's not Morpheus, he's a digital recreation of Morpheus. So like, did Keanu just forget what he looked like? And with the movie being a rehash, every single element, and I mean every single element of this movie, is just done again, but worse. I mean, they literally took a movie known for pioneering action choreography, action filmmaking, CGI, special effects. They literally invented bullet time in the first movie. And somehow in this movie, they've done all of those things worse than not only the original, but the movies that ripped off the original. And they had Keanu Reeves and the director of John Wick in this film. So it certainly doesn't seem like it's due to any lack of talent or filmmakers on board. I just don't think that they cared. Even the soundtrack was bad. Like, the original Matrix movies had these amazing soundtracks in the film that were like well known for how good they paired with the action. And this one sounds like it was done by Kevin MacLeod. Like, they're using fucking Sneaky Snitch to score some of these scenes. It feels like you're being gaslit when you watch it. Like, I'm thinking while I'm watching the opening scene of this movie, like, was the original Matrix this bad? The answer is no. No, it wasn't. There are no agents in the movie. There's no good action. Agent Smith keeps calling Neo Tom instead of Mr. Anderson for some fucking reason. The evil, threatening, all-knowing bad guy in this movie is Neil Patrick Harris, who doesn't even look threatening when you put him in an SS uniform. And the whole plot makes zero sense, too. They literally break Neo out of the Matrix just because, and then the entire conflict of the movie is them getting Trinity due to the danger that they themselves caused. There are no stakes or anything in the movie, because if at any point the good guys lose, they're literally right back where they started. And not a single character dies in the entire movie. Not a single character even gets hurt in the entire movie. No one gets killed off. They are all fine in the end. No one was at risk or in any danger. They fire so many bullets, and not once in the movie does a single bullet ever connect with anyone ever. And then it just ends with like a fan fiction level happily ever after. Neo and Trinity control the Matrix, and they both have superpowers now, and they're super in love, and they're gonna remake the Matrix in a good way this time. So as a genuinely made movie, it is completely irredeemable in every way imaginable, and I could not recommend more that you do not watch this movie. And well, my friends, this is where my theory comes in. You see, watching this movie made me question a lot of things. And the first question is actually why I watched it. The second question is why was it made? And I mean, the movie makes it pretty obvious why it was made. I mean, it even directly tells the audience at one point why it was made.
I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy. They informed me they're going to do it with or without us. And they made it clear they'll kill our contract if we don't cooperate.
This movie was solely made by Lana Wachowski because she knew that Warner Brothers was going to make the movie without her anyway. And so, Lana Wachowski made the movie and made it bad on purpose. And this theory sounds insane. It sounds like a MatPat level game theory where I just make up evidence for it. And surely the Warner Brothers scene was just some tongue-in-cheek joke, and that's where it ends, right? Well, just hear me out for a moment, and hopefully it'll start to make sense to you. Because I looked into the behind the scenes of this movie, and that's where it all clicked for me. Because with only a little bit of research, you can find articles online about how Michael B. Jordan was originally cast to be the lead in a new Matrix film. The movie was going to be written by Zach Penn, a writer for The Avengers and Ready Player One, and it was specifically made in order to start a new Matrix film franchise. And the most important thing about this is that the Wachowskis were not attached to the movie at the point that any of these articles were written. So, we know that Warner Brothers was going to make a Matrix film without the Wachowskis in it. And something else interesting to note is that right around this time, Lana Wachowski's parents unfortunately passed away. And this is important because there is a very interesting interview done for The Matrix Resurrections where Lana talks about how this is what made her want to do the film. In the interview, she says that she made the decision to bring Neo and Trinity back as a way of dealing with the grief of losing her parents, literally resurrecting beloved characters. And something interesting from this interview, other than the fact that Lana speaks exactly how you think the person who wrote the dialogue for the architect would speak, is that Lana also talks about how Warner Bros. Incessantly asked her to make a new Matrix movie. I mean, I've already covered Space Jam 2 on this channel and how shameless this studio is when it comes to milking their franchises. And funnily enough, Space Jam 2 also has a meta reference to the fact that Warner Bros. Is single-handedly making this movie for money. So now I think it all starts to come together. Warner Bros. Wants a milkable franchise with young characters to do spin-offs with, and Lana Wachowski wants to do a movie for personal reasons. These two bits of information are provable facts. And so here's where the theory part comes in. Because unless Lana Wachowski literally comes out in an interview and says, I did not want to make this movie and I made it bad on purpose, the rest of what I'm going to say is just a theory. A game theory. But I just want to lay out my theory and let you decide how well it fits the information we've been presented. So imagine this. Lana Wachowski gets an email from Warner Brothers. They say they're making a new Matrix movie in order to get spin-offs and money from. Lana is upset over this recent traumatic event that's occurred within her family, but Warner Brothers say that they're going to make the movie anyway, with or without her. So, Lana takes on the movie out of spite, and also because she has an idea with what she wants to do with it. Warner Brothers sends her a contract with a list of criteria she needs to meet. They need young characters who they can make spin-off movies from down the line. They need an open-ended ending so they can continue franchising the series. They need the movie to be a rehash of the original because The Force Awakens did well and they want Matrix fans in the theaters. Lana is of course upset because she wants an original story. So she writes one about Neo and Trinity coming back to life and living happily ever after and living forever because it makes her feel better. So she makes the core of the movie this emotional message that also helps her grieve. The Warner Brothers bullet points are still in front of her though, and the execs are demanding they be put in or she's off the project. Lana doesn't care about franchising and wants the series to be over though. She already made the trilogy and has been strongly against sequel movies because she thinks the story has already been told. But in order to appease these bullet points, she adds in new characters, names one Bugs Bunny as a meme, make the other characters completely forgettable, cast her friends that she made on Sense8 in the roles, and everyone's happy. And of course, she doesn't even bother contacting the original cast herself, though I imagine Hugo Weaving gets a call from the Warner Bros. Execs anyway. I imagine the conversation between him and Lana went a little something like this. Hello, Lana speaking. Hey, it's Hugo. I just got an email to be in the new Matrix movie, but I'm going to be on Broadway from January to March. Well, I mean, if you can't make it, you can't make it. No, I can make it. I mean, I can do both. Can you maybe like move the movie up to May or something? I'd be totally able to do it then. Nope, sorry, no can do. We are unable to move filming dates. Why? I talked to the other guys and they said they'd be able to move it up. Yeah, sorry, we need that time for locations. Lana, you're shooting the whole movie on a soundstage. What locations are there? Sorry. You're breaking up. What? Yeah. I'm going through a tunnel right now. Lana, I called your landline. I called your office landline. How are you going through a tunnel right now? Gotta go, bye. So, Hugo Weaving is out due to scheduling conflicts. Lawrence Fishburne is also out because he didn't even get a phone call. And the Warner Bros. Execs are happy because Holden and Doc Manhattan are cheaper and younger so they can do more films. Lana has now written the movie to copy the structure of the original exactly and includes a happy ending and makes it all about love. She has the last 2/3 of the movie down even. She just needs to write the parts where Neo is still in the Matrix. She calls up Warner Bros. And asks if she can change it. They say she met the bullet points, so fuck it, do whatever you want. So Lana writes this incredibly meta script about the Matrix movies existing and people's reception to them and how nobody understood them, and tries to make it as obvious as possible that Warner Bros. Made her make this movie. So she submits the draft. She might even be worried that it's too meta, but the only notes she gets back are to change the Matrix movies into video games because it's more modern and cool. She makes Keanu a gamer, and the Matrix movies are now the Matrix games, and literally changes nothing else, including the scene where the movies themselves are playing on projectors. She even cast the old second unit director she's friends with in a scene accepting an award for the movie because she thinks it's funny. Lana shoots the movie, gets her paycheck, and bounces. She knows the movie will flop and that Warner Bros. Will be unable to make a franchise out of it, and the only parts she even cares about is the catharsis she gets from resurrecting Neo and Trinity. She didn't care about getting good action choreography or good CGI or anything else. And that is my theory on how this movie got made. And again, it is just a theory. There's no hard evidence that this played out anywhere close to what I just described it as, but it checks all of the boxes. And it would make me respect Lana Wachowski infinitely more. Because again, if it's not true, and this movie was made 100% genuinely to be a good movie, well, I think the video up until this point has covered my thoughts on that. It is actual garbage. And even if my theory is 100% true, I don't want to get the wrong idea across. This movie is still bad. It just changes my perspective on the director. So those are my thoughts on Matrix Resurrections. And what can we take from this? What can we learn at the end of the day after having reviewed this movie? Well, I think we can learn the message that the movie is telling us, because this movie does have a strong message and a pretty coherent message throughout. And that message is that therapy is bullshit, okay? Everything is a simulation. Your life is a lie. You need to take pills in order to wake up from this simulation, okay? Nothing is real. Neo woke up, so you need to wake up too, okay? Lana Wachowski is warning you. Everything is fake. Wake up, sheeple! And if you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more and leave a comment down below saying the original Matrix was an allegory for how cool firing guns in slow motion is. I'll see you next time.